In my last video, I talked about building a risk scorecard using a visual dashboard. In this video, I'm going to talk about taking that risk scorecard and trying to evaluate it in order to make more effective decisions. We're dealing with FATECO again, 297 legal entities, 15 billion of sales, 2 billion of EBIT. We've categorized our entities into low, high, and medium risk, with 65 high risk, 58 low risk, and the remainder medium risk. We have a chart down here showing risk scores. The boxes in purple are the various slicers that we're going to use to look at the data in different ways. And the first thing we're going to do is limit the tax category, or limit our analysis to those in tax categories of more than 10%. And we do this, I'll note that this 2 billion of EBIT quickly goes down to just 1 billion of EBIT. But we're now sort of focused on, so we now know that there's a lot of profit in some entities which have very low tax rates. Most companies at this point will say, well, we're going to do very high quality documentation for the high risk categories. And we do that, we're going to have 61 countries, we're going to cover 7 billion of sales and 305 million of profits out of the 1 billion. So we're only covering about a third of the profits. And then they're going to say we're going to do a little bit less detailed documentation for the medium risk countries, or medium risk legal entities. And we do that, we push up the number of legal entities to 213, cover almost 13 billion of sales and nearly all of the profits. And so that looks pretty good, but we're still documenting a lot of legal entities. So maybe we want to try to look at reducing the number of legal entities by focusing on certain supply chains. Supply chain 1 has 11 high-risk entities, so only a very relatively small portion of the total. Supply chain 3, if we look at it, has just 6 high-risk entities, so a small proportion of the total. Supply chain 2, on the other hand, because it has transactions with a tax haven, has 44 of the high-risk entities. And so perhaps we want to focus on getting a really good story for supply chain 4 and developing that as sort of a common thread. There's another way to look at this as well, however, and I've looked at mainly by sales category. And what I've done is identify those 25 companies which are in the top decile or have the highest levels of sales. And if you focus just on those companies, there are 25 of them. They have 11 billion of sales and 1 billion in EBIT. And so we're really getting a very high proportion of the profits. The second decile has companies with 26 companies with 2 billion or just 1 billion of sales and 38 million of EBIT. And then the remaining 80% of the companies, there's 205 of them, they have 1 billion of sales and just 34 million of EBIT. And so they really aren't accounting for very much of the sales at all. And so perhaps we should think about documenting by sales category. And if we develop really good documentation for just those companies in the top decile, we've captured 11 billion of sales, 1 billion of EBIT. And if we go over here and look at these transactions, we've really documented 93% of the total EBIT profits. And so we've really been much more efficient by approaching it this way rather than just focusing on the high risk versus medium risk categories. And so perhaps we want to mix and match and really try to focus on the biggest companies with the highest sales, develop good documentation for those, and perhaps be a little bit more sparing of our documentation for those entities which are high risk, but which are very small sales and have only a total of 6 million of profit. So we really want to spend the time and effort to document these 24 companies in the same way that we do their larger counterparts. So hopefully this video has given you some food for thought, and we'll return with the next video and talk about how we can use visual dashboards as a way of looking at comparables data and perhaps anticipating what tax authorities will do with comparables more effectively. Thank you.